Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. If you're in the mood for a commitment from Elon, here you go. He said, "The super strong support from retail and large investors meant a lot to me. I'll do my utmost to ensure that their faith is rewarded." This was kind of cool. There were 29 different Cybertruck owners taking delivery at the same time, and right before that, the Cybertrucks did a little light show and frunk dance. But unfortunately, I shared that to contrast with this video where we have tens of Cybertrucks that were sitting in a lot waiting to be delivered, and somebody vandalized them with spray paint, and they eloquently wrote F Elon either on the hood or on the side of the trucks. And for whatever it's worth, I did find this video of this gentleman removing spray paint from stainless steel. So here's the before through some of the scrubbing, and then there's the after, so maybe it's possible to have it removed. Either way though, this is obviously ridiculous, and of course the first thought is, well, check the cameras and try to find who did it, but then the question arises, was Sentry mode on for these vehicles just sitting in a lot? And if it was not, is there any way Tesla can still access the camera footage? Just a quick reminder, if you know any upcoming high school grads, you can let them know about the MDP, Tesla's Manufacturing Development Program. Tesla is currently accepting applications. For you SpaceX fans, Tesla has announced a new supercharger is now open in Brownsville, Texas at Boca Chica Boulevard. In response to what Elon said the other day about power and cooling needed at Giga Texas and that it could be over 500 megawatts in the next 18 months, Matt Smith asked a great question: who's providing that 500 megawatts of power? I brought this up again though because I saw some people saying, oh, Tesla's solar roof at Giga Texas will have it covered. Unfortunately, no. The last update we got, they said when it's complete, the system will be the world's largest solar rooftop installation with roughly 30 megawatts of power. That's clearly not going to get it done. Joe Tetmeyer did say Austin Energy and LCRA via the new switchyard on the north side and cables along raceways along the east parapet wall. Most of this is now installed. As Joe pointed out, the Sand Hill Power Station is located right across the street, but that's listed at 694 megawatts. And then as Matt highlighted, this is already providing power to the ERCOT grid, so it's not like they can just take all of that and feed it to Tesla. So if anybody out there hears anything about this before I can find something, feel free to shoot me an email. Elon's lawyers are now saying that the shareholder vote should delay a hearing on the award of billions of dollars in fees to the lawyers that challenged it. Tesla's attorneys are saying the vote impacts significantly what remains to be decided in this litigation. Thus, Tesla has asked for a delay of the July 8th hearing so it can lay out the shareholder vote's implications. Tesla's filing said the vote alters the course of this litigation and arguments about it should be briefed expeditiously and decided before this court rules on legal fees to be awarded. A delay in this hearing over those legal fees would further hold up the judge's decision on how much to award in lawyer compensation, which needs to happen before she issues an order finalizing the case and then opens a window for Elon to appeal the ruling. The word is Judge McCormick is under no legal obligation to recognize the shareholder vote under Delaware law, but she can choose to take judicial notice of the development. Once she rules on the legal fees, she can then issue a final judgment in the case, and then again, Elon can appeal after that. In response, the plaintiff's attorneys said the vote to ratify Elon's pay has no legal effect, and the only way for Tesla to challenge the January ruling is to appeal to the Delaware Supreme Court. As we know, the plaintiff's lawyers have asked for around 29 million shares, but today they said Tesla could, as an alternative, pay at least $1.1 billion in cash, which would be justified by the court's precedent, although they described that as unfairly low. If there are any Modern Family fans out there, that made me think of Cam starting big and then winnowing down. Tesla, on the other hand, urged the judge to put aside the fee dispute and determine the impact of the shareholder vote, which in turn could drastically reduce the legal fee. The plaintiff's lawyers, of course, disagree, saying that Tesla's board process for proposing that ratification vote was flawed. The law was misused by Tesla and the shareholder vote was coerced by Elon's threats to take potential products from Tesla. The plaintiff's lawyers want a decision on their legal fee as the next step in the case. This is where hopefully Alexandra's legwork and the 8,000 shareholders that signed that form, that petition, may actually come into play and swing the balance a bit. No decisions have been made yet, but the stage is now set. Alexandra also shared a little tidbit I thought was interesting. Generally speaking, for the Delaware legislature, they are passing some apparently controversial 2024 amendments. It sounds like Judge McCormick did not like these amendments, and a former chancellor called Judge McCormick out, as well as a vice chancellor, for their public participation in the debate over the legislation. The former chancellor said, "I was taught that judges need to stay in their lane and need to be applying the law legislators give them. Judges don't need to intrude upon the process of law, because if they do, they become the makers as well as the appliers." Just tangentially related, but there you have it. A PSA, there's a bug in Tesla's software 2024.20.1 that is basically breaking dog mode. This is a problem because the screen is actually showing the appropriate messaging as if the feature was working, but the cabin temperature is not being maintained after they leave the vehicle. Just FYI if you're taking your furry children anywhere with that software version. This marketing material from Tesla Japan was floating around the internet, and if you translate the image, Tesla owners in Japan can now transfer their FSD for a limited time, this one only until June 28th. Elon did agree to another quarter of free FSD transfer, so hopefully this gets the ball rolling for that. Just a quick word on Tesla's FSD 12.4.1. There are definitely mixed reviews out there. Some users are having a better experience. I've tried to watch all of them and listen to all of the commentary. Personally, for whatever it's worth, I was a bit disappointed. I don't know if it's my expectations were too high or watching AI Driver and his experience with the overall build. And I know .4 releases can smooth things out, and other people are saying there are improvements without a update. Either way though, this is part of what I've been warning about when it comes to Tesla not having the ability to write explicit code to solve specific problems. Given the black box nature of these neural nets, version 12 may be a scenario of fixing some problems here, but then other things break over here and it becomes pretty difficult to figure out how to balance it all. Don't get me wrong, I still think Tesla's going to figure it out. I just think it may be a bumpy road and not move as fast as some of us were hoping right when we saw version 12. So at least for now, and at least for me, my expectations for the pace of progress for version 12 have come down a few pegs. Munro put out a new teardown video on the Cybercell, and I'll share the main takeaways. One of the main visual differences was on the bottom of the cell when it comes to the venting. This one on the right with the pink foam of death is the Gen 1 cell, and on the left is the new Cybercell or Gen 2. The Cybercell now has these welds on the bottom, and there are two different variations, some with 9 welds and others with 12. They said that helps with venting, and that's in contrast to the Gen 1 cell. They said the copper tab that was in the Gen 1 cell has been removed, which leaves more space in the cell in favor of these welds. Munro also said the Cybercell has all but eliminated the cobalt, and Jordan from the Limiting Factors said that the Gen 1 cell had about 12% cobalt. Munro did not share a specific figure, but there's a chance Tesla's cobalt use is down under 5% with the Cybercell. Sandy said the Cybercell has mostly nickel and the cobalt is mostly all gone. He also added there's no manganese in the Cybercell. Munro was just speculating here, but they think it has to do with the dry battery electrode process. They said manganese isn't really in short supply and it's not that expensive, so they thought it had to do with DBE. And we know that Tesla was only using DBE for the anode with the Gen 1 cell, but Munro did say something very interesting. They said they have high confidence that they'll find the dry process was in use for both electrodes this time, the cathode and the anode. They think Tesla eliminating manganese had something to do with it. And excitingly, when it comes to energy density, it was confirmed that Tesla is now using at least some silicon in the anode. Tesla had forecast to us that they were going to do this eventually, and now it's been confirmed. They said the separator between the anode and the cathode was basically the same as Gen 1, and the electrolyte has not yet been analyzed, but there may be some differences there. So Munro is confident when they do further testing, they'll find out Tesla is using DBE for the cathode, which would be a huge breakthrough. Personally, I'm still not convinced. The main reason for that is multiple sources have confirmed that Tesla has been importing cathode parts for 4680 production at Giga Texas. Things definitely could have changed since then, but for now, I'm keeping my expectations low. And if you go back to the actual study on the teardown of Tesla's Gen 1 4680, it was around 233 watt-hours per kilogram. That was early, so let's just call it 240 watt-hours per kilogram. If Tesla really is pulling off a 10% energy density increase, that would take it up to about 264 watt-hours per kilogram. But for now, neither Munro or Jordan at the limiting factor have actually done that testing. For reference, Panasonic's 2170s have an energy density in the neighborhood of 265 to 270 watt-hours per kilogram. So there's a chance Tesla's Cybercell is now approaching that energy density figure of the 2170 cells, and as Elon and team said, hopefully the cost will be at least on par, if not below that, by the end of this year. I'll say it again, I know Tesla's progress with the 4680s may be a bit slower than some were hoping for, but it's such a hard problem, and we have to remember Tesla is definitely making progress. Give them another 12 to 24 months, and if they can crack the nut for DBE for the cathode, which Munro thinks they may have already done, don't sleep on the 4680s. We have some new renders again from Dominic on X, and this is nothing official from Tesla, but this time he talked about a Tesla van camper edition, so just wanted to share his work because I was very impressed. There's a CNBC article saying Tesla's workforce is officially down 14% from the peaks last year, which at one point got up to 141,000 global employees. But this new data is really just from Tesla's email distribution list and the one that goes out to everybody. According to that email list, Tesla's employees would be down to about 121,000 or down 14%. No surprise, as the reporting was Tesla may be looking to cut as high as 20% of the workforce with this most recent round. Kia's global fully electric car sales were 19.4 thousand for the month of May. That figure is up 93% from last year. Looking at global year-to-date figures for Kia's wholesale numbers, the EV6 is leading the way at 35.1 thousand, the EV9 did 15.9 thousand, the EV5 did 4.1 thousand. Thus, total for the GMP platform is up 20% year over year. I think part of the problem around Tesla having a demand problem or not boils down to the semantics and how you would actually define a problem. I did want to point out though, graphs like this one that Alex shared to prove that Tesla's demand is just fine doesn't tell the whole story. Now sure, is Tesla outselling other brands? You betcha, but is Tesla also down year over year across the EU? Also, you betcha. It's also been reported Tesla is operating below capacity at both Giga Texas and Giga Shanghai. So is it a problem implying that Tesla is doomed? Certainly not, but is it a problem that I think should be addressed? I would say yeah. And it wasn't whole Mars, but some other accounts on X were taking this post of the top 10 EV brand registrations in the US through April this year to say that Tesla's demand is again doing just fine. But this also says nothing about year-over-year data, and outselling companies like Ford, Hyundai, and Kia really isn't saying that much. You can certainly argue that the competition is not coming if you would like, but to use these charts to say that Tesla's demand is doing great is just not accurate. Here's a message from a well-known TikToker, George Saliba, who I believe owns a car dealership.
Don't really know what to say. Don't buy electric cars other than Tesla. If there's a new electric car on the market besides anything that's a Tesla, don't buy it. Chevy Silverado EV, stay away. Lucids, stay away unless you're robbing them. Chevy Bolts are great. Kia EV6s are great. Don't buy Kia EV9s. Kia dealerships are discounting them out the butt. And why would you buy a Kia EV9 when you can buy a Rivian R1S? It's like the same price. Rivian R1Ss are cheaper actually used. You can buy one for like 75 grand. Way better of a vehicle. And yeah, man, the EV market's a very volatile market. New EV coming on the market other than Tesla? Stay away.
This article about Ford being roughly 2 years away from hands-free technology was a couple weeks ago, but it was really circulating today. If you don't remember though, Farley said, "We're getting really close. We can do it now pretty regularly with a prototype, but doing it in a cost-effective way is just the progress we're going to need to make." Thus, Ford thinks they can bring level 3 autonomy by 2026. But as we know, Ford's Blue Cruise is currently under investigation for some fatal accidents, and Mercedes level 3 is essentially a gimmick. Most importantly, this has been added to the prediction tracker, and yes, one day we will go through when we have enough results in. There was an article going around trying to argue that Tesla's factory in Mexico was in jeopardy thanks to the new incoming president. The article said the new president highlighted concerns that Tesla's factory in Mexico would exacerbate droughts in the region. But if you actually track down what she said, it was just that Tesla's Giga Mexico should not affect residents' drinking water supply. But it's a good opportunity to introduce everybody to the new incoming president, Claudia Sheinbaum. She happens to be a scientist who has co-authored award-winning research on climate change. And she said both private and public financing have a role to play in moving toward cleaner energies, adding Mexico must accelerate its energy transition. And yes, she will be the first woman to lead Mexico when she takes office, but it sounds like her background lines up very well with Tesla's ambitions. The Center for Strategic and International Studies just put out a new report, and their takeaway is that China has spent $230 billion over the past decade to develop its EV industry. The scale of government support represents 18.8% of total electric car sales between 2009 and 2023. The ratio of that spending to EV sales has declined from more than 40% in the years before 2017 to just above 11% in 2023. It's definitely helped with scale, but as we know, it hasn't really helped with profitability yet. They said BYD's net profit per car declined over the past 12 months to the equivalent of $739. Compare that with Tesla's net profit per car sitting at $2,900. Going to the actual study, here are some of those incentives: the nationally approved buyer rebates, the exemption from the 10% sales tax, government funding for infrastructure like charging, R&D programs for EV makers, and government procurement of EVs. But of that $230 billion number, the buyer's rebate and sales tax exemption have accounted for the vast majority of the support for the industry. And that's part of why you may have heard that a Bank of America analyst warned the Detroit Big Three that they need to get out of business in China as soon as possible. The analyst said the D3 automakers need to focus on their core products in more profitable regions. He said China is no longer core business for GM, Ford, or Stellantis. As we've said in the past, GM's market share in China used to be up around 15% back in 2015. Now, as of last year, it's down to 8.6%. The analyst said Tesla has a roughly $17,000 cost advantage in EV components compared with the traditional Detroit 3. Electrify America, in partnership with the utility Rocky Mountain Power, have rolled out the first of 20 DC fast charging stations in Utah. So far, 4 of these stations are online, and they'll be up to 350 kilowatts. As a reminder, Electrify America is supposed to start using the NACS connector by 2025. As our GigaPress expert Luca has confirmed, the world's first 16,000-ton GigaPress has been commissioned. This one will be making parts for XPeng. Here it is installed in the factory and ready to go. At one point, there were rumors that Tesla ordered a 15,000-ton GigaPress that was going to be for the next-gen platform, but as far as we know, Tesla has backed off those rumored plans. Tesla stock closed the week at $183.01, up 0.79%, while the Nasdaq was down 0.18%. It was a lower volume day, trading about 10 million shares below the average volume the past 30 days. I hope you guys have a wonderful and a safe weekend. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.